Hello, everyone. So it has been a super long time since I've recorded a video, and that is for a variety of reasons. And it's gonna be sort of the segue into what I wanted to talk about today. I would say the main sort of reason, which can be splintered off into a few different reasons that I haven't recorded anything in a while, is that honestly, my mental health has been super poor. I don't know. I don't know how to really describe it, I guess. And this is sort of what I wanted to get back to. The reason that I chose this exact topic of how to stop believing our own lies. Because that's sort of the place that I've gotten to where most of my life, I would say I am described by myself and even others around me as one of the most positive people they know. I try to be happy. I try to look on the bright side. I consider myself optimistic, hopeful, happy. But for at least the last month, maybe even a little longer, my default state of being is essentially just trying to survive. I lay in bed at night before I go to sleep and sort of just think about how stressful the next day is going to be, or how horrible it's going to be, or how I have all these things to do and none of them bring me joy. I feel very unfulfilled by literally anything that I do. I feel like even things that used to sort of bring me happiness just don't anymore. And even when I do things that when I was previously maybe in a negative place and I was like, you know what, I'll just like get myself a treat, like, order some food or go grab a good beer from the store and drink at home because obviously we're still in lockdown and stuff like that. None of those things really sort of lifts me back up in the way that it used to. I find myself like after I've ordered some food, I'm like eating it, like, all right, like it's fine, but like, what's the point? And that sort of question, I would say, has, in a sense, sort of poisoned my mindset to the point where this past week or so, I've been like, I need to take a step back, like a huge step back, and think about where I am and where this path is going to take me if I don't get off of it. Which is why I wanted to put this video out, because this was another question that I kept having of like, what's the point? Why should I record videos? Why should I put anything of mine out there into the world? It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. It doesn't have any kind of impact. Nothing that I do actually matters. And the more I thought about it and like really examined it, whether journaling, talking to people, talking to my therapist about it, talking to friends, like this isn't real. This isn't true. If every person, like if we just take a second and imagine what the world would look like if every single one of us believed these things about ourselves and how that makes us show up in the world when we don't think anything that we do matters versus the amount of power and happiness and joy and fulfillment that we can give to others and that we can bring to ourselves when we show up from the exact opposite perspective. I mean, it's stark. It's a complete opposite difference of if you think like, wow, like maybe I can help people, maybe I can do something, maybe my life matters. And it's been bizarre, to say the least, to not feel like that, or to feel rather the way that I do feel for so long. Because it feels so contradictory to my character, yet it also feels like I can't stop it. Which is why I was like, okay, I'm gonna do what I always do when I even feel like a little bit down, but like this is the most, I would say, extreme unhappiness I have felt in a long time. So something that I do a lot in these situations, and again, like I said, this is a more extreme version of anything that I've experienced in the last year, I would say. Other than maybe in the fall when I was also sort of having a bad time, schools were reopening, and I just felt like nobody was taking the coronavirus situation seriously, and I was still expected to work in person as if it didn't matter whether or not I got sick or got someone else sick, potentially killed them, or they potentially killed me. That just didn't seem to matter to anybody else. And that was really difficult for me. But now it's a variety of different issues. But what I do in these situations is I try as much as I can to take a step back and look at, okay, what things do I usually have in my day? Because something that sort of happens when I'm feeling like a bit off or down, sad, angry, upset, whatever, any of these sort of like negative emotions, is that I started to feel like everything in my schedule, like all of my tasks, whether it's something that I put there because I'm like, oh, I love this, I'm gonna put it there, or something that I have to do, a job responsibility, for example, it all feels like a burden. I'm like, oh my God, first I have to do this, and then this, and then this. And it feels overwhelming. And especially for people who might be similar to me, because I know that I feel like this, I am someone who always likes to move my life forward and to have goals and to be positive and to do things and to try things and to see what happens. And the past month or so, quite possibly longer, I've felt like, for the most part, like these things are staring me in the face, almost like they're mocking me, like, I can't do that if I can't even like be happy for more than like a handful of minutes at a time. And it's hard to feel that way. And so I wanted to acknowledge that before I go into sort of like the things that I try to do and have been doing to get out of this, because I am so aware that I feel like a lot of the messaging in the personal development community and the mental health community is definitely improving, but there's still a lot of this like, oh, well, just like wake up early, do all these things, and you'll just be happier, without sort of acknowledging the deep, hard feelings and like the amount, like the leap that it takes to get there when you're in a bad place. It's really easy to go from like a so-so or like a okay, like, well, you know, like life's fine, but whatever, to being super happy all the time, to like incorporating some things into your life, seeing some positive changes and being like, oh, this is sweet, life is great. But if you're lower than that, it is hard because there's this, at least for me, there's this shame of like, everyone thinks I'm a positive person and I feel like shit all the time right now. Like, it is hard to get through the day without crying just because I don't really enjoy my life right now, and it's like hard to even admit that to myself, let alone to anybody else. So I have these things that I typically do, like journaling, affirmations, meditation, and that kind of stuff, and I do find them all very, very helpful, and exercise, of course, but I've also recently been, as if you know me personally, you know this, oh, it's so frustrating, been injured a lot. Like I had problems with my right knee that took me out of running for 3 months, and then got back into running for about 2 months, and did a half marathon one weekend. This was the second month of my running. So the first month I was sort of, you know, just doing low mileage, every week. And then the second month I was like, all right, let's just jump back into marathon training. And then the last 3 weekends of that month, I did a half marathon, a 15-miler, and then a half marathon. And that second half marathon, I don't know what I did, but my left knee, like, I screamed the F word in the middle of the street because it hurt so bad when I took a step. Like, I took one step and I was just like, this is wrong, this is bad, like something is not right. So I think that definitely, of course, affects my mood and stuff like that. But I'm more bringing this up to say that I know I'm typically a person who comes from this perspective of like, yeah, just try all these things. I promise you they will help you, because they have helped me. And that is true. But this is back to where I feel like these lies sort of come in, of when you're in a bad place for a long period of time, like if it just keeps staying bad, it's harder and harder each day to convince yourself that any of these things will help you, or that they matter, or that they'll do anything for you. Or why do I even need to be in a positive mood? No one gives a shit anyways. I don't affect people's lives. And it's hard. As you can see, like I am like literally fighting back tears even talking about this, because it's a painful place to be. And excuse me, I find for me when I'm in this place, it is difficult to even show up in the world at like a normal level, at like a baseline, like, oh yeah, things are going great. Like to even talk to people, I'm like, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to share things about my life. There's nothing good in my life. There's nothing I like about my life. But then even thinking that, I'm like, that's horrible. Like, how is there nothing? But which is obviously again like not fully true. There's lots of things I like about my life, but it becomes this thing that it eclipses everything good, and you can only see this sort of like darkness and these problems and stressors and all these things. So I wanted to come from like a very authentic place rather than like initially I was like, oh, I should wait until I feel better and then go back and talk about this. I want people to see that feelings are real and valid, and I don't think that there's enough of, which it's personal choice because it takes a lot to be very vulnerable and authentic, but I don't think that there's enough of acknowledgement of even people who typically are in really fucking good moods can have a bad time and have a really hard time getting back out of it. Maybe more so, maybe less so, I don't know. But for me, I'm having a real tough time, and I wanted to show that authentically because the last month has taught me more than anything that life is really motherfucking short. And if we hide behind these masks and these walls and don't tell people how we really feel and don't show up in the world as best we can authentically, it tears away at us and it makes it worse. And I think it takes away the potentiality for connection, because I think what separates us most as a society is feeling like we can't be authentic. We can't just show up and be ourselves. We have to be the best version of ourselves. Otherwise, no one wants to hear from us, which isn't true. But it's one of these lies that both society and our own brains tell us. So, that being said, long intro later. One of the things that I really find value in when I'm in a bad place is going back through books more than anything else, more than podcasts, more than affirmations, more than meditation, more than journaling. And I think especially because for me personally, meditation, journaling, and affirmations all feel like something is required of me. Like I have to do the work, which I think is valuable. You can get a lot out of it. But when you're in this place where you don't feel like things are good and you don't feel like anything, like that your voice doesn't matter, it makes it really hard, I think, for me. And I've been journaling for, I don't know, 25 years. And I find it almost impossible to journal, writing to myself, things that nobody will ever see, when I'm in this kind of dark place, because I feel like, what's the point? This doesn't matter. This isn't doing anything. Whereas when I'm reading a book, it feels more passive. Like I can just absorb, like, okay, well, this person wrote this from a good place. Maybe I can get something else out of it. And one of my favorite books, which will probably be no surprise to anyone in the personal development community, The Alchemist by Paolo Coelho. It is a book that I've read probably 3-5 times now. I don't even know, but I wanted to point out that there is deep value that can be gained from rereading books that deeply resonate with you. And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be like, I'm not saying everyone in the world needs to read The Alchemist. It might quite possibly help them. And it's also in a ton of languages, so it's accessible. But things resonate with us because of our own unique personalities, personal life experiences, and perspectives, and the place we are in life at that exact time when we find it. And I think that's something to be said as well, because I'm like, okay, at least recently I've been like, okay, well, what if I just read? And I mean, you feel it when you pick up a book and you're like starting to read it, and someone else is like, oh, it's a great book, and you're reading it, and you're just like, I hate this. But you could come back to it in 6 months and be in the place for that book, for that message to hit you and be like, which this is incredible. Like, what? I thought I hated this book. Like, what happened? Our tastes change, our needs change, our wants, desires, hopes, dreams, goals change over time. And that's normal. That is normal in life. But one of the things, I wanted to read a couple parts from this that have recently resonated with me, literally yesterday. So there's a conversation in the book with the main character, this boy, and an old wise man that he meets, who ends up being the king of Salem, and helps him get started along his sort of hero's journey, his quest towards his personal legend and his life fulfillment. And he mentions to the boy that people, when they're young, like children, have all this hope and belief in themselves and in the world, and they're like, of course I can try this thing and of course it'll work. Like, that's just how life works. And then we sort of get trained to stop believing in our dreams because of life experiences. We get let down, lied to, hurt. Things don't work out. It's not easy. It's not fun anymore. And so we stop believing in ourselves and our dreams and we stop chasing them. And because we start believing in the world's greatest lie, is what the king says. And then the boy asks him, what's the world's greatest lie? And the king replies, it's this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. And I bring that up because I think that it's important to think about, and especially right now, I know that that might not be the best message for everyone because, I mean, COVID's still everywhere. There's still going to be things that affect you and your life and affect your mood and your happiness that have nothing, not nothing to do with you, but that feel that they're out of your control. Nobody asks for people in their life to hurt them, for people in their life to get sick, for them to get sick, for them to get hurt. Nobody's like, you know what would be sick if I, as someone who loves running, as a runner, if I just fuck up my knees every couple of months. I don't want that. That's not fun for me. But it happened, and I can either accept it or rail against it until the end of time and be upset forever. And that's not always easy. I'm not saying it's like, well, just accept that life has problems. Yeah, okay. Look at me. I'm like holding back tears just trying to even have a conversation with people who may never even see this. No one may ever even watch this. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying that it's important and that we've just got to try. And if you can find something that can bring you out of this, you're going to get back to that place where you do feel like things matter and they're important, and you matter and you're important, and your wants, needs, desires, goals, hopes, and dreams matter and are important and achievable, and that you can do them. But that being said, it's also, I think, not only just okay, but sometimes necessary when you're in sort of a bad place to just put those aside for a second and to say, I believe in you, I think we'll get there, but right now I can't do this, and to just move them to the side and just wait until the time when you're in a better place. I could keep reviewing my goals every so often, but like I said, like, it's something where it seems like they're just sort of like, you're never going to do this anyways, and it hurts. It's painful to see, but it's something that really helps me. The Alchemist is a really good one. One of my best friends bought me Mindful Thoughts for Runners, and it's fantastic. So if you're a runner, fantastic. If you're not a runner, still great, still good. Another one, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff, which is really short, actually. Like, each sort of chapter is like 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. You know, it's short reading, and it all has sort of themes. So you could really go through and just be like, okay, what am I struggling with? Understand separate realities. That's one I've been struggling with recently as well. And I think it matters because it's something that we need to think about as we go into any situation in life, that we might be in completely different places than other people. I'm showing up in life right now from a place of struggling to battle being depressed, like struggling to be happy again. Whereas the person next to me might be like thriving, absolutely thriving. And that's hard. It's like being at a party and you show up to the party and you're sober and everyone's just drunk, just like completely wasted, and you're like, okay, we're on 2 different levels right now. Like, you're having a great time. I'm just like, I don't know why you're laughing at nothing. Like, you know, like it's sort of the same concept where we show up in life and we're in our place, and I think sometimes assume that everyone else is in the same place, and we're just not, and that's okay, but it's something we need to be aware of. And also, The 3 Questions, I think, is a super amazing book because it talks about exactly this concept of like, our minds can tell us all these lies and we believe them because it's our mind. Why would our mind lie to us? Why would our mind tell us like, oh, you're not good at things, you're not worth so-and-so's attention, or you shouldn't show up in the world the way you want to because what if people judge you, or, you know, like all these sort of thoughts, or like, you shouldn't eat that, you're going to get fat and everyone's going to hate you, and, you know, like all of these horrible negative things that run through our minds. And just being able to take a step back and stop them and recognize them, not even always necessarily stop them, but even just being able to be like, whoa, okay, my brain just told me don't eat that cupcake because you'll get fat. Do we think do we have a problem with our body? Do we not love our body? Do we not, like it sends these messages. So I think it's really important when you're in these places, again, to just take a step back, to acknowledge, like, okay, this is not the place I want to be in, and where is this going to take me? And where do I want to be in? And it's okay if it takes time. It's hard. It sucks. Like I said, I've been in this place for at least a month, if not longer, and it's been horrible. Like, it's been really horrible. And I'm trying to get out of it. Another series of books, these ones I find resonate with some, not others. This book is The Power, but it's from the Secret trilogy. There's, I think, The Secret, The Power, The Magic. I don't remember in what order, to be honest. I've read all of them already, so that's why I only have one of them, because I lost a couple on the move, and I've already read them, so it's not that important to me if I read them out of order. But I think all of them have some value in it. Those ones are more on the topic of the law of attraction and attracting what you want into your life. Another absolutely amazing one I wrote, another absolutely amazing book that I did not write, is The Midnight Library by Haig, and it is easily the best book I've read in the last year. Like, it is phenomenal. And what I find important to mention about him specifically is that he is open about his struggles that he's had with depression, with anxiety, with just being in an incredibly low place. And maybe that's why this book resonated with me so much recently when I read it. So I was like, relatable. But it's also just a really good book. I won't give any spoilers away, but it's fantastic. And I'm gonna put all of these books I talk about like in links below, and maybe even some more as well. But I guess that would just be my biggest advice of like, know, first of all, that you're not alone. It's okay to feel not your best, to seek help if you need it, and please do. Like, and it doesn't have to be the people you're close to, because sometimes that's harder. Sometimes it's harder to admit to the people closest to us that we're not doing well, and we don't know how to be ourselves as they know us anymore, or at this time. So, like, for me, as I've said, I'm very open about, like, I go to therapy once a week virtually, like, and it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. So see a counselor, therapist, life coach, whatever. If you find that helpful, talk to a friend or talk to a family member or talk to people on the internet. I don't know. I don't care. It's not me. It's your thing. I'm just, able to only speak to really what resonates with me and what's helped me. But there are, I don't know, like 7 billion people on the planet. So it is very, 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 very likely that someone else has experienced what you're going through and can be of some help to you, or at least to just listen. But I think that that's the important thing, is like accepting and acknowledging that we feel certain things and being a good teammate to ourselves and trying to see how we can get out of them. Sometimes it means journaling more. For me, it means not really journaling because I find it so painful and so difficult. Or sometimes for other people, it can mean like just write out literally everything, set it on fire and set it free, let it go. But also sometimes it feels like it's hard to let things go. Maybe there's some more knowledge that we can gain from those things. But I guess just my biggest takeaway would be to be kind to yourself. But know that it's just a phase, life comes in phases, it will get better. But unfortunately, as hard as it might be, we sometimes do have to put in some work to get there. It's not always default that we're just in a great mood no matter what happens and things are amazing and wow, life's great, especially for the past year or so when we've all been dealing with this global pandemic. Shit is hard. Everyone I know hates their job right now. Like, almost everyone, I should say, but most people. And it's hard to be mutually supportive when we're all going through really difficult times. And almost everyone I know has some major life thing that they're dealing with right now, if not multiple. And that makes it really hard when in a normal life situation, we'd be going through lives and we'd all have our own sort of situations and be able to lean on each other more because maybe someone's doing better than we are and they're able to help us. And right now, it sort of feels like the opposite, where, I mean, my friends are supportive as hell, I should mention. Like, they have been very supportive of me, especially in the last couple of days, but it's not always, like I said, going back to showing up in different ways, it's not always someone's fault if they can't be there for you. Maybe they're just going through their own stuff. So just trying to be empathetic to ourselves so that we can be also empathetic to others, and just voice our needs and be aware of them, but in a helpful, loving, kind way rather than a harmful and destructive way. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help with any other resources and point you in any other directions of things that might be more helpful for you as well. But stay as positive as you can. I don't want to say stay positive because I know it's really difficult sometimes right now, and it is for me, but stay hopeful, I guess, because there is light at the end of the tunnel and there is something better on the other side, and it's okay to be going through a rough patch.